My initial reaction, and it continues to be my reaction, is that it's a sadistic and brutal beating. It is, and it should be referred to as a lynching by police officers in uniform, not in uniform, but on duty. So it was horrific. And it's part of a larger pattern that has been established here with the police and policing in general, specifically in the Black and brown communities.
How would you describe the police culture that exists today in the US that has led to shocking incidents like this?
Uh, the primary contributor for this type of police criminality is the toxic police culture that exists here. For too long, we have been operating as law enforcement, as police, with an outdated model. This run, catch them, lock them up, and try to throw away the key model, as opposed to a more comprehensive and progressive public safety model, which can incorporate a whole host of other disciplines in order to achieve community safety. So the toxic police culture dominates, and as long as that happens, you will have these kind of senseless, brutal acts of violence committed by our police officers.
But Mark, you believe this toxic police culture is too resilient and stubborn to overcome. Is there any hope of reform?
Where there's breath, there is hope and there is life, and there's always an opportunity to reform. It just takes a true commitment to doing so. And part of that commitment requires that there be federal legislation stating and pointing out the different areas that need to be improved, incorporating those other disciplines, as I've indicated, and ensuring that there is a respect for the humanity and the sanctity of human life expected for our law enforcement professionals. And there has to be also clear data collection, which would support moving towards a more holistic approach to public safety.
What has the Memphis Police Department said about Tyre Nichols' death, and what do you make of the action they've said that they are taking?
The Memphis Police Department has taken unprecedented action, and by that I mean the chief of the police department, C.J. Davis. She had immediately and relatively quickly terminated the officers and assisted and has continued to assist in the criminal prosecution of the officers since they've been arrested. Beyond that, we haven't gotten the full story as to why this stop and this interaction even occurred. What started it? What was the basis for the police to stop Mr. Nichols? So there are many questions that are yet unanswered. However, up until this point, the Memphis Police Department has been relatively open and transparent.
And what have Tyre Nichols' family said, and what are they calling for?
The family is calling for complete and total justice. And right now they're calling for a fuller level of accountability. There are still individuals who were seen on videotape at the scene of Tyre's vicious beating. And the family has been continuing calls to make sure that everyone who took part or who was in the area and participating in this brutal beating, this lynching, is held accountable. So they're looking for additional steps, additional accountability, and quite frankly, additional charges on those other individuals who have yet to be fully identified.
And Mark, do you agree that Tyre Nichols' death has just proven how little progress has been made since the death of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer 3 years ago?
Absolutely. And part of what's obvious is once we failed to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that demonstrated that there was a lack of commitment to having effective, progressive-minded police reform. So we have a long way to go, and part of this journey requires that people, like other 12-step programs, perhaps for other addictions and issues, need to acknowledge first that we have a huge problem, and then examine those things that feed that problem, and commit to making the necessary changes.
Well, Marq Claxton, thank you so much for speaking so clearly about this. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.